today we're going to talk about what I believe to be one of the number one challenges of the world today. I don't want to say it's the number one challenge, but I would say it's easily a top 5 pressure point for the world and for people in the world. I've been looking, since I selected this text to preach, I've been looking forward to preaching this particular passage because I see it as a societal problem, a cultural problem, a church problem, a Christian problem, a spiritual problem. And today I hope there are some things that we can learn from this and grow from this. I want to talk to you about how comparison can create a bitter heart. Comparison can create a bitter heart. Occasionally people will say to me something along the lines, I wish I could blank. And my answer typically is you can if you want to, but it will require you to make some sacrifices in order to do it. And we struggle because what we want is the good pieces to everybody else's life to be added to the good pieces of our life, and there to be no challenges, no struggles, no pain, no heartache. So like recently, one of the conversations that I had with somebody, they said to me, I wish I could travel like you do. That was what they said. And I said, you can. No, I can't. I said, sure you can. You just can't be a member of 5 hunting clubs and own 72 guns. Right? There are choices that you have to make. Like you can't do that and this. There's got to be a choice to make. You have to say, okay, this is the direction I'm going. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. And way too often we see the life that somebody else has, and we think that's what we want, and we desire it. And so we begin to compare our life with their life, our family with their family, our marriage to their marriage, our money to their money, our job to their job. And that is a fatal mistake. So I design my life in a specific way. There are things that I do, and I want to do them every day. So, like if you try to get an appointment with me, it is extremely rare that I'm going to set an appointment before noon, but certainly not before 10 o'clock. It's not because I like to sleep in, even though some people think that might be the case. It's not because I like to sleep in. It's because I have a specific formula, way that I do things. So I get up early, no matter where I'm at in the world, no matter what we're doing, who's with me. If we're traveling, if I've got the family, I get up at somewhere between 5 and 6 o'clock every single day. And I start to work when I wake up. And I work while everybody else is asleep. It's the most beautiful time of the entire day because nobody's running through the house, nobody's talking, nobody's doing anything, nobody's got the TV on. It's just, I can work. And so from then until about 10 o'clock, I can get a lot of work done. So I work really hard between 5 and 6 to about 10 o'clock in the morning. And I try to get anything done that cannot be done on my phone. So if I have to write a paper or a sermon or a blog, or I need to record a video or something, I can do videos on my phone. I try to get it done in those hours. And then for the rest of the day, if somebody needs me, a text or a short email, like if you send me a book in an email and it's going to require me an hour to reply to it, you're not getting a quick response. But if it's a quick response, a message in Slack or WhatsApp or Messenger that I can return when I stop somewhere. So I might have to wait in line at McDonald's, right? So I don't waste that time. I pick up my phone and I return messages while I'm waiting on my food, right? What? Yeah. So that's just how I plan my day. And you're like, well, you only work 4 or 5 hours in the morning. Well, here's the thing. The average American clocks 8.8 hours a day. That's the average work day, 8.8 hours a day. Studies tell us, though, that only 3 of those hours are productive. They're on social media. right? They're texting their friends. They're at the water cooler talking about something that ain't got nothing to do with work, right? They're at the cubicle next door. Only 3 of those hours are really productive work on average for the average American worker. As a matter of fact, there are studies that show that something like $66 billion a year is lost in the American workplace just from social media alone. Just from looking at social media and how it distracts you from your job. So, and some of it has to do with circadian rhythms. So if you don't know what that is, it is your most productive time of the day. So my most productive times of the day, if you've never checked yourself to see when you were most productive, are between 6 and 10 a.m., and then between 4 and 6 p.m., those are my 2 most productive times. And then again, if I wake up in the middle of the night, between 1 and 4 a.m. But that doesn't happen nearly as much anymore. But you're like, well, Pastor, I can't design my life that way. Well, you can design your life in ways that fits how you want to do things. And everybody does things differently, and so I have some things. I don't have some things that other people have. So, like, I don't hunt or fish. If you see me hunting or fishing, it's because I'm appeasing somebody. It's not because I said, "Hey, let's go hunting and fishing." I don't have a bunch of guns. So I'm not in a hunting club. I don't have the expense. I don't have teenage kids at home anymore. So I'm not buying cars. I'm not prepping for college. I don't have travel sports. So I don't have those expenses that other people have. And if you're not careful, you will look at my life and say, oh, I wish I could do X, when you've got a whole different set of circumstances, right? If you're trying to be productive between the hours of 6 and 8 and you got a kid to school, right? You know what I'm saying? And a baby who just woke up and they're hungry and you got to change their diaper. Guess what? You just can't say, hold on. Your life looks different. And so we judge. And here's the struggle with that. We live in a time where we can compare pieces, and I want to be very clear about that, pieces of our life to pieces of other people's life. I love social media. I think it is a great tool and a great resource. I also believe that it is a curse and a problem for most people in the world, because we get to see everybody's highlight reel. Right? Now, for the most part, when I say highlight reel, what I mean by they're showing you the good pieces of their life. Now, there are other people, they have a highlight reel where it's filled with drama. And they want to tell you about how bad life is. And there's 2 things I want you to understand. One, if somebody is always telling you how bad their life is, it's not as bad as they're making it out to be. Just not. 2, if you're seeing their highlight reel, it's not as good as you think it is, right? They took a picture of their kid when he got, most likely to succeed, not when he was raising Cain and flipping them off, right? They didn't video that and post it on Facebook. They show you the clean house and the clean car, and they show you their vacation photos. If you look at Facebook, sometimes you think people are at Disney World every week, right? That's what it looks like, because you're getting the highlight reel of their life. And we look at it and we go, oh, I want that. I would like to do that. I would like to be a part of their life. And we're friends. Listen, there are people we're friends with and follow on social media for no other reason than to find out what's going on in their life. I didn't ask you to raise your hand. I read this week. It was a couple of weeks ago, actually. I saved it just for today. It says, some people are too jealous to like my post and too nosy to unfriend me. Like, they just want to be able to scroll through. Yeah, I saw where they were, whatever. Because they just want to see what's happening in your life. Here's the problem. We get their highlight reel, which is the result of sacrifice. So if you see a family who went on vacation, they made a sacrifice. And they may have had to save the money. They may have had to go in debt. They may not have been able to go out to eat for the last 6 months. They may have had to stay at home and eat. And even if you're close to them and you know some of the sacrifices that they made, you only know some of the sacrifices. Because let's say you're friends with them and you know, okay, they didn't go out to eat and they saved their money and they were very frugal and they circled the wagon so that they could go out to eat. What you don't see or probably didn't see is the conflict between that husband and wife deciding what things they were going to cut so they could save that money. The times that their children threw a fit because they had to tell their kids no. And their kids were heartbroken about it. You didn't see those moments. You only get part of the story. And here's the thing, and I want to talk about this a couple of times today. No matter what you see and how much you know, you still only have a piece of the story. You still only have a part of the picture. And when you make your life or spend your time saying, I would like to have A, B, C, D, or E, based on the fact that somebody has A, B, C, D, or E, you're going to be frustrated because you're only seeing a piece of the life that they live and how that they got it. You have no idea the price that they paid. So let's look at this. We're going to look at how comparison creates some challenges. A few months ago, I talked about how comparison is a contentment killer. And let me say it like this. Comparison is good if you're in a healthy place and you can learn something from that person. Comparison is bad if you say constantly, I want what that other person has. It's going to lead to a bitter heart, and we're going to talk about that. First of all, comparison leads to covetousness. Have you ever had not even be thinking about something, and all of a sudden somebody else gets it, does it, or has it, or you see it or pass by it and you go, it sure would be nice. Like I can be sitting in my chair not wanting anything, but if my wife makes a move for the kitchen, I suddenly want whatever it is she's going to get. Right? Like I hadn't thought about it, hadn't planned on it, but when she gets up and makes a move, are you going to get some chips? Yeah, I want some too. Right? Or you hadn't even thought about ice cream and you see somebody else with ice cream and you go, boy, I sure would like to have some ice cream right now. And when you see it, it all of a sudden makes you want something that you were not wanting before. I like that. It could be an advertisement on TV. It could be a show you watch. It could be something a friend got, or you go to eat at a steakhouse. Some of the fancy steakhouses, they bring all the desserts out on a tray and they show them to you. As long as it's on a menu, I can say no. The minute you bring a tray to my table and show me how good it looks, it's nearly impossible for me to say no. I won't thinking about it. I won't planning on it. But now that you've put 14 pieces of cheesecake in different, I need to take one, I feel obligated to. And so that's how it happens. So he says here, truly God is good to Israel, to those whose hearts are pure. Now you're going to see as this seems like it's out of place, this one sentence. But then he says, as for me, I almost lost my footing. My feet were slipping, and I was almost gone. For I envied the proud when I saw them prosper despite their wickedness. Let's just stop right here. He said, but as for me, when I started looking at other people, it caused some problems in my life. It caused me to lose my footing. It caused me to slip. And I was almost gone. Some translations might say I almost fainted. It almost did me in when I was looking around, seeing what everybody else was doing and how everybody else was succeeding. And they had things I didn't have, and they had things I wanted. And it caused me to be discouraged by it. But it didn't just cause him to be discouraged, because it goes on to say, for I envied the proud when I saw them prosper despite their wickedness. First of all, he classifies that they are bad and I am good. Right? No, isn't that how we think? I deserve it, they don't. I've been living right, they haven't. And he says, but I envy the proud. Envy is not just I'm jealous of you. Envy is resentful discontentment. You don't just want what they've got, you resent the fact that they got it and you didn't. I've seen people literally scrolling through social media and see somebody get something, and immediately this resentful discontentment bubbles up in their life. And they're like, I don't know how they get that. I don't know how they do that. They don't make any more money than I got, and they've got this. And we make comments like that because we're looking at what other people have instead of what we have in our life. So not only does it cause you to slip, it takes your footing out from under you. It creates envy in you. And then it also causes you to exaggerate. Notice what he says. He says, they seem to live such painless lives. Their bodies are so healthy and strong. They don't have troubles like other people. They're not plagued with problems like everyone else. They wear pride like a jeweled necklace and clothe themselves in cruelty. These fat cats, I love this translation because I don't get to use fat cats in Scripture very often, but it says, these fat cats have everything their hearts could wish for. When you start looking at other people's lives, you start exaggerating the situation. Not only do you demean your own self, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes, but you exaggerate their position. You begin to say, look, they have painless lives. Their bodies are so healthy and strong. Like, go back to the ice cream. I don't know about you, but I dislike people who can eat ice cream and it doesn't bother them. Right? I can look at a Krispy Kreme donut and gain 3 pounds. But there are people like, it looks like they can eat anything they want to and it just goes right away. Like, I don't even know how that happens. And sometimes we look at people and we go, they don't have any trouble. They don't have any pain. It says they don't have troubles like other people. Here's the thing I would tell you. If you're convincing yourself that they don't have trouble and they don't have pain and they don't have heartache and they don't have difficulty, you're telling yourself one of the biggest lies that's ever been told. Here's the thing I want to assure you of. Everybody has trouble. Everybody has pain. Everybody has heartache. Everybody has difficulty. There is nobody that is carefree. There may be some oblivious people who aren't doing anything about it, okay? But there are not people who don't have trouble. Everyone in this world has trouble and difficulty and pain and heartache. Some people are better in dealing with it. Some people don't talk about it very much. Some people aren't going to post it on Facebook to let you know they're having trouble. But everybody in this room is either having trouble, has had trouble, or is getting ready to have trouble. Everybody in this room. But we look at their life and say, oh, they're fine and their bodies are so healthy and strong. Like I've been riding by the doctor every day and I ain't seen their car there. I mean, those are the kind of extremes that we go to when we start comparing our lives with everybody else's life. We see the highlight reel. We see the wonderful things that happen in their life. And then, we view them as evil people. We begin to judge them and talk about how bad they are and how they're prideful and they boast against the very heavens. Their words strut throughout the earth. And here's the thing. What we want, what comparison does, is it causes us to want the rewards that other people have without the sacrifice that they paid. We want the rewards that they had without the sacrifice they paid. And it doesn't work like that. You don't get to have the rewards without the sacrifice. The problem is we don't see all of the sacrifice that somebody had to have a good marriage or to have a good job or to have money in the bank or to have the house that they have or to drive the car they have or to go. All we see is the end result. And I want the end result, but we don't know the sacrifice that was made to be able to do that. And so what we have to understand is there is a sacrifice that goes along with the reward. Here's the second part. Comparison confuses. I started to get this video and use it today. But so I like to play golf. I'm not a golfer. That would be saying too much. Close to a lie, actually. but I do like to play golf. And I saw a video this week of a guy who was driving the golf ball. And so if you don't know what driving the ball is, a driver is the biggest club. You should be able to hit it the farthest of any club you have in your bag. When they're on the tee box, the first shot is most of the time hit with a driver. And they were videoing this guy, and he lined up over the ball, and he held this club, his elbows out like this, and the end of the club was in his chest, standing directly over the ball like this. And I thought, what is this guy? He looked like some old putter style. It looked like somebody was getting ready to win a long-handled putt, is what it looked like. So he's standing over the ball like this on the tee box, and then all of a sudden, he moved his wrist, and elbows went everywhere. He had to be double jointed. I've never seen elbows go in the places that this guy's elbows went. I mean, they went all behind his head and around, and bam, he hit the ball, went right straight down the middle of the fairway, 250 yards. I was like, that is the craziest thing I have ever seen in my life. Now, here's two things that happen. If you've never played golf, never seen anybody play golf, but you have a desire to play golf, and that's the video you get, you're going to go to the tee box and line up like this. And then you're going to move your wrist, and you're not going to be double jointed, and you're going to hit yourself in the ankle, and the ball's not going to go anywhere. Or you're a golfer and you're trying to do it the right way, but you're slicing it or hooking it, or you can't get it to go where you want it to go. And you think, well, if he can do it, maybe that's what I need to be trying. And then you line up and you get up there and you change your entire stroke, and you still, you doop, 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 doop. It goes about 10 yards. Because what happens is we see somebody else have a success, and we think, oh, they had success, I can have success. We compare our ordinary with their extraordinary. Here's what I'm going to tell you. One, everybody does not have 16 joints in their elbows and cannot line up at a drive and make the ball go straight if you hit the ball that way. He was extraordinary, okay? But we see people do extraordinary things and think, okay, I'm going to apply that extraordinary thing to my ordinary and believe somehow that we're going to be okay. Or the only example that we have is somebody doing something extraordinary, and we think, okay, that's the way I need to do it. And we make a mistake either way. When we're not having success, we try somebody else's ridiculous way, thinking that it's going to bring us success. Oh, we've never tried anything. And we see somebody doing something and we go, that's exactly how I ought to do it. He says this, he says, and so the people are dismayed and confused, drinking in all their words. What does God know, they ask? Does the Most High even know what's happening? Look at these wicked people, enjoying a life of ease while their riches multiply. Did I keep my heart pure for nothing? Did I keep myself innocent for no reason? I get nothing but trouble all day long, for every morning brings me pain. If I had really spoken this way to others, I would have been a traitor to your people. So I tried to understand why the wicked prosper, but what a difficult task it is. He says when we get our eyes on the other people, then it causes us to question things we should never question. We begin to question, is God right? Is living right the best way to do? Should we have been honorable? When you see somebody who lies and they get ahead, the first thing that comes to your mind is, how did they get away with it? When we see people who are wicked move a step ahead, or we do the right thing on our job, but somebody who is underhand and conniving gets a promotion, and we go, how did they do that? Maybe I just need to be underhanded and conniving. Maybe I just need to lie. Maybe I need to be deceitful. Maybe if I did things their way, I would be okay. And we start questioning things that we should not be questioning. It's like, what does God know anyway? Does living right even matter? Why have I kept a pure heart when they've not kept a pure heart, and they're the ones that seem like they are succeeding? The problems with comparison are, number one, you don't ever have the whole story. Ever do you ever have the whole story? Ever. Ever. You hear people say there's two sides to both story. What I would tell you is there's two sides and usually the truth. That's what I would tell you. Rarely is one side 100% the truth. Rarely. I don't want to say it's never because I don't like that word. I would just say rarely is that the case. Secondly, you don't know the price they paid for what they have. I know some people who have some things that other people don't have, but they have no idea that they get up and work a second job from 4 o'clock to the time they go to their main job. You have no idea the sacrifice they paid. You have no idea the challenges that they have. The third thing I would tell you, the problem with comparison is God did not call you to live someone else's life. If you're not careful, you will spend all of your time living somebody else's life. Well, they did this and I did and I want to do that. And every time somebody else makes a move, you feel like you got to make a move. Every time somebody does something, you feel like you got to do it. Oop, there's a new idea. Oop, there's a new way of doing things. Oop, there's a new job. Oop, and you're all over the place. The only safe squirrel is the one that chooses the side of the road. The one that gets hit is the one that can't decide. Oop, over there. Nope, back over here. Nope, back over there. Squash. Right? You're like, which side of the road do I need to be on? Here's what I'm going to tell you. Either side's safer than the middle of it. Make a decision and go. Stick with it. Hang there. Keep going in a particular direction. Stay with it long enough that you can arrive at a place that you can find some success, but stop changing all the time and stop doing it because somebody else is doing it for you. When you're consumed with others, it will cause you to miss your own destiny. God didn't create their life so you'd know what to do. He created their life so they could do what he wanted them to do, but he created your life for you to do what you need to do. And if you're always trying to figure out how the wicked prosper and how that person got ahead and why that person was successful, you will consume yourself with stuff that don't matter and be miserable in your own life. Here's the last thing. Comparison creates bitterness. There are consequences to focusing on the wrong thing. First of all, it affects your mental health and your spiritual health when you're always looking at somebody else and saying, I wish, how did they? I don't understand. The opposite effect, the second half of the effect that has is when you're consumed with somebody else's life. You can't work on your own, so your own life suffers. So your mental and spiritual health is consumed and discouraged and distressed because it's spent on somebody else's life, and your own life gets no attention, so it suffers. So you got double trouble. And if you're not careful, it will destroy you. And you will, listen, you will never be successful as long as someone else's dream dominates your to-do list. That don't mean you have to work for somebody else. I mean, work for yourself. It don't mean you have to be self-employed. It don't mean you have to get to set your own day every day. That's not what I'm saying. But what I mean is if you're working a job because you believe that that's going to make you like somebody else, you're working the job for the wrong reason. My dad, I'll be honest with you, I am a pastor solely because the Lord, this is where God wants me to be. Only, 100%. My dad used to tell us, if you can do anything else except preach. He mostly told my brother that because he thought I was a heathen and I never was going to preach. But he would tell, that's semi-true. But if you can do anything else but preach, you should. Because you shouldn't do it because I do it. And I did. I tried everything else. I tried everything else. But I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And you should not do what you're doing because somebody else is doing it. You shouldn't do what you're doing to get what somebody else has got. Look, I'm a pastor in Edenton in northeastern North Carolina. I love, there's some pastors I know. Some of them I know personally. Some of them I don't know. I just like watch them from a distance. But I could sit and look at Andy Stanley, who pastors in Atlanta, Georgia, and they got, 6 or 8 campuses, 100,000 people show up on Sunday, and I could go, man, I want that. There's not 100,000 people within 200 miles of here. Right? What am I going to do? Bust them in? And I could go, oh, I got to have that. And I could say, I'm not successful unless I have what they have. But I am comfortable where God called me. I'm comfortable in a town of 5,000 and a county of 14,000. I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable where you got to try. I would have to, if I did a prayer circle around 100,000 people, it would take me 3 days. Right? I mean, it would be a long way. I'm fine with that. I'm good with that, but sometimes we see what they're doing, and that's what we want. And if we're not careful, the comparison eventually will create bitterness in our lives. He says, then I went to the sanctuary, O God, and I finally understood the destiny of the wicked. Truly, you put them on a slippery path and send them sliding over a cliff to destruction. In an instant, they are destroyed, completely swept away by terrors. When you arise, O Lord, you will laugh at their silly ideas as a person laughs at dreams in the morning. I'm going to stop right there because I believe sometimes God laughs at me. I believe there are times that I have been consumed with ideas and plans and wants that somebody else had, and I wanted to be like that person. I can remember, this is funny now. It wouldn't be funny. I couldn't have taken it as a joke then, but it's funny now. I remember when I first started preaching, I wanted to preach like T.D. Jakes. Anybody in here know who T.D. Jakes is? Can y'all see me prancing around? Get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready. Like that. It ain't working. You know what I'm saying? I can try all I want to. What I'm going to get is a comedy show. That's what it's going to look like. And I remember when I was younger, like, man, that's who I wanted to be. And I tried some stupid things. Like, I'm thinking about it now. I'm laughing at myself in my head because right now as I'm preaching, I'm replaying some silly things. And I got to think God was up there going, I had to. Like, I have to believe that sometimes God laughs at us because we're chasing, God, if I could just have this. God, if you would just give me that. And God's like, nah, that's not, stop it. You're being silly. And then all of a sudden he comes to himself. And he says, then I realized my heart was bitter and I was all torn up inside. I was so foolish and ignorant. I must have seemed like a senseless animal to you. He says, when I finally got my bearings, I realized my heart was bitter over something somebody else was doing. My heart was the one that was out of whack over some life, some achievement, some success that somebody else had. I was jealous. I was envious. I was bitter of what they did. And once he got to a place that his life could be recentered, and he said, I'm going to let God handle them. If they're living right, fine. If they're not living right, fine. God's going to deal with it. What I need is to live the life God has called me to live. He realizes he's the one that's torn up. And anytime we get our focus off of what God has designed us to do, we will be bitter and we will be confused and we will be heartbroken and we will be distressed because we're not living in the purpose and the destiny that God has created us for. We're taking everybody's exit except our own. He says, I was so foolish and ignorant. He said, yet I still belong to you. That's the beauty of it. Now, I got to tell you, I'm thankful that God let me continue to preach until I could figure out what worked, at least for me. And I didn't have to copy somebody else and act like somebody else and be somebody else. I could just do what God had called me to do. And I'm comfortable with it. So I think sometimes I'll go somewhere else to speak, and I'm going to use humor. I almost said humor. It's a different thing. Humor. I'm going to use humor. But I'm thinking as I'm speaking, I'm like, I wonder how these people are going to take my humor. I wonder if they're going to think that's funny. I wonder if they're going to be easily offended. But I'm comfortable. I'm mostly worried, are they going to be uncomfortable? Not am I going to be uncomfortable. I'm just like mostly worried, are they going to be uncomfortable? But the thing I know is that in spite of all of the times that I messed it up, I still belong to him. That's the beauty of it, is that if you've been chasing somebody else's dream, if you've been living somebody else's life, if you've been bitter because you wanted what somebody else had, you're still his child. And what you really need right now is to have your life recentered. He says, I still belong to you. You hold my right hand. You guide me with your counsel, leading me to a glorious destiny. Whom have I in heaven but you? I desire you more than anything on earth. He says, my health may fail and my spirit may grow weak, but God remains the strength of my heart. He is mine forever. Those who desert him will perish, for you destroy those who abandon you. But as for me, how good it is to be near God. I have made the sovereign Lord my shelter, and I will tell everyone about the wonderful things you do. I am most fulfilled when I am living the life God has designed for me to live. Not the life he's designed for you to live. That's for you to live. I am most fulfilled when I'm living the life that God designed for me to live. And if I'm not careful, I will become consumed with your life and not live the one he has created for me. If you're not careful, you will be consumed living. I see it with parents. They call it FOMO now, fear of missing out. And we feel like we've got to do everything because everybody's doing it. And then we get to the end of it and we're worn out and stressed out and broken and we don't know what to do. It's because we were afraid if we didn't do everything. You can't be everything. You can't do what everybody else is doing. You can live the life that you are called to live. I think when I was talking about Jesus, the Lord laughing, there are a couple of times when I think the Lord just had to laugh. Like when the two disciples were going, they separated themselves from the 10. And they said, Lord, when you come to your kingdom, we want to be on the right and on the left. We want to be important. And if you need to know, one of the other 10, he's a thief. Right? I mean, I wonder what Jesus was thinking. Listen, stop trying to be something that you're not called to be. And I'm always amazed at how Jesus, so when we come to take communion, when I think about the Last Supper, one of the things that fascinates me is Jesus' ability to just keep doing what he was supposed to do in spite of what everybody else was doing. You understand, around that table, Jesus knew, because he told them, that one of them was going to betray him that night. He knew because he told them that the other 11 were going to deny him and run and hide. One of them, Peter, was going to deny that he had ever even met Jesus. He was going to curse him and pretend like he had never even seen Jesus. And what did Jesus do? Just kept breaking bread. He had a job to do. He was like, look, I can't be consumed with you. I can't be consumed with what you're doing. I got a job to do. He just kept breaking bread. He could have been disappointed because they didn't all show up at his trial. He could have been frustrated because nobody came to the cross while he was on it and to visit him. He could have had all of these emotions and said, I wish I had their life. But he had a job to do, and he just kept doing it. He kept breaking bread. He kept walking forward. He kept laying down his life because that's what he had to do. I don't know how I would have responded. Had I sat down for the last meal I was going to have, knowing that one of them was going to betray me, one of them that was the closest to me was going to deny me, and the other 10 were going to run away and pretend like I never existed. I don't know how I would have responded. But Jesus responded by just keep doing what he had to do.